Thank you. Since the chairman has gavelled out all of my colleagues with their unanimous consent, I am going to read for the record many of the chairman's comments in September of the importance of hearing from the whistleblower. Again, Ambassador, thank you for your patience, thank you for your service, but since we haven't been able to conduct ourselves in normal procedures, I'm just going to use the 5 minutes for this. September 29th, in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "The whistleblower at the center of the impeachment investigation of President Trump will testify in the House very soon." This is a quote by the chairman. USA Today, September 29th. Talking with ABC News this week, Schiff, the Democrat who chairs the House Intelligence Committee, said the whistleblower would testify very soon, and the only thing standing in the way was getting security clearances for the attorneys representing the whistleblower so they could attend the testimony. From Vox, September 29th, Rep. Adam Schiff said Sunday the whistleblower at the center of a growing scandal surrounding President Donald Trump will testify before the House Intelligence Committee very soon. On CNN, September 29th, Schiff said Sunday on ABC as well as NBC's Meet the Press that he expects the whistleblower to testify very soon. The Washington Post, September 29th. In an appearance on ABC News this week, Schiff echoed Pelosi's message. He also said he expected the Intelligence Committee to hear from the whistleblower very soon, pending a security clearance from Acting Director of National Intelligence Joseph McGuire. In the Huffington Post, Schiff told ABC's This Week that he expects the whistleblower to appear before this committee very soon. In the New York Post, quote, "We'll get the unfiltered testimony of that whistleblower." In the Washington Times, quote, "That whistleblower will be allowed to come in." These are all quotes from Chairman Adam Schiff. In Talking Points memo, the question was posed, actually this was by George Stephanopoulos, "Have you reached an agreement yet with the whistleblower and his or her attorneys about coming before the committee and providing the information firsthand?" Quote, "Yes, we have," Schiff responded, "and as DNI McGuire promised during the hearing, that whistleblower will be allowed to come in and come in without a minder from the Justice Department or from the White House to tell the whistleblower what they can and cannot say. We'll get the unfiltered testimony of that whistleblower." In Daily Kos, "We're ready to hear from the whistleblower as soon as that is done, and we'll keep obviously riding shotgun to make sure that the acting director doesn't delay in that clearance process." In CNBC, "We'll get the unfiltered testimony of that whistleblower." In Market Watch, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff said Sunday that an agreement has been reached under which the whistleblower will testify before the committee very soon. I can keep going, but again, the chairman refused to allow us to put these into the record with unanimous consent. So I've read those out, and as we know, it is important to protect whistleblowers from retaliation and from firing, and we want to make sure whistleblowers are able to come forward. But in this case, the fact that we are getting criticized by Chairman Adam Schiff for statements that he himself made early on in this process shows the duplicity and just the abuse of power that we are continuing to see. With a minute 54 seconds left, I'll yield to my colleague, Mr. Jordan.
Oversight. This amendment by my colleague gives GAO access to important information in the IC's possession that is necessary for the conduct of GAO's responsibilities, while also ensuring the protection of sensitive sources and methods. It strikes the right balance between security, transparency, and needed oversight. It also imposes confidentiality restrictions, clarifies the GAO officers and employees, like their IC colleagues, are subject to penalties for unauthorized disclosure, and requires the Comptroller General to consult with the Director of National Intelligence to establish protections against such unauthorized disclosures. In sum, the amendment will enhance congressional oversight of the IC in a manner that protects our national security. I want to thank my colleague for offering it, and I urge a yes vote and yield back.
Vernia yields back. The gentlewoman from New York continues to reserve.
I reserve, yes.
Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, every time the Chairman Schiff rises to speak on a bill about intelligence and security and holding the president accountable, I get excited hoping that we're going to hear about that evidence of collusion and all the other investigations that were conducted in this House over the past year. I'll yield back, absolutely.
Will the gentleman yield? Will the gentleman yield?
Yes. Yield.
Well, let me ask the gentleman, are you aware, just by way of illustration, that the President's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, secretly met with an agent of Russian intelligence and provided Russian intelligence with internal campaign polling data, as well as strategic insights about their strategy in key battleground states. Are you aware of that?
I think everyone's aware of every bit of information that you all have tried to peddle over the past 4 years.
Let me ask you, are you aware that while the Trump campaign chairman was providing internal polling data, that Kremlin intelligence was leading a clandestine social media campaign to elect Donald Trump? Are you aware of that?
I think we see every day. Facebook just announced that Russia was trying to do a Facebook campaign in Ukraine, if I remember reading that correctly. Mr. Schiff,
would you like me to
yield
go on?
To a question
would you like
from me?
Would you like me to go on?
What would you yield to a question?
Well, I'm asking you, would you like me to, you asked me to present you with some of the information?
No, I think it's great. Are you aware of President Biden's son Hunter's art dealings? Are you aware of the President's son's dealings with in Congo with the cobalt mine?
Well,
are you aware of the dealings in Ukraine?
To get to the gentleman's question, I am aware of President Trump's son meeting secretly in Trump Tower in New York with a Russian delegation with the purpose of receiving dirt on Hillary Clinton, which the Russian delegation represented was part of the Russian government's effort to help elect Donald Trump in 2016. And I'm aware that Donald Trump Jr., said in response to that Russian offer of dirt on Donald Trump's opponent that he would love it, suggested the best timing would be in late summer, and had a secret meeting in Trump Tower. And when asked about that secret meeting, both the president and his son lied about it. Are you aware about those facts?
I think that everyone's seen all the information, again, that you all have peddled. I'm curious if you would like to take a wager on which president's child, which president's son, at the end of the day, once we have the gavel, will be the most security risk to our nation.
So I'm happy to continue to outline the contacts between the Trump campaign and Russia, their solicitation of Russian help in the election, the former president's effort to coerce Ukraine into helping him cheat in the election. I would happy to go chapter and verse if you would like me to use your time that way. Right now, though, the subject of this amendment is to allow the General Accounting Office, the GAO, to help Congress oversee aspects of the intelligence community. But if you're more interested,
I reclaim my time.
The gentleman has reclaimed his time.
They've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of tax dollars on trying to peddle a lot of wrongdoing in the previous administration. This bill is all about the previous administration. Every speaker on their side of the aisle has mentioned Donald Trump's name numerous times. Every speaker. It's time for the majority party to focus on governing and get over their obsession with Donald Trump.
What we don't have is the required report to Congress. And while there's all of this debate about whether a citizenship question should be included or not included, the question I have is why are we violating the law to include any question whatsoever in the 2020 census?
I believe she's out of time, Chairman. But you, please do answer the question. I don't have any need to respond, sir. You don't have a need to respond? I have no need to respond. Okay, well, I'm asking. Could you answer that question, please? Would you repeat the question, please?
We are now in violation of the U.S. Census Act of 1974, which requires you to submit a specific report to Congress ahead of any changes that you find necessary. This question is not a reinstatement of the 1950 question. It's a change, which means that change requires you to send a report to us while the question is proposed, not before it is decided or settled. So my question is, why are we violating the law to include this question in the 2020?
Point of order. We need to, at this particular point, the gentlewoman is talking about a statute that's been violated. There's been no enunciation of what that statute is. I don't even know what she's talking about.
I'd be happy to provide it.
I think she laid it out pretty nicely. She said it twice. I'm serious. give him.
But in previous testimony, Mr. Chairman, he said that they've submitted reports, and
there are 3 reports required. They submitted the first one and the second one, but not the third one that is required to Congress. And this is here in U.S. Code 13 U.S. Code Section 141, Population and Other Census Information, subsection F3, and I'd be happy to provide that to you.
Now, I noticed that all your I guess those are attorneys back there squirming around telling you stuff. Can you tell? Maybe they can help us with this answer. Did they tell you what the answer is to that? Got a lot of people back there.
I've been told by counsel that we have complied with all the regulations. I will take up with counsel the suggestions that have been made by the congressperson, and we will get back in due course on the record.
As a follow-up on that question, can you give me that in writing, the fact that you complied with the law?
And, Mr. Chair, I'd also like to note that according to our committee staff, there is not compliance with F3.
Well, he's going to give me, he said he did, so he's going to give me a statement. He's still sworn. He's going to give me a statement saying he did. So I'm looking forward to that statement.